Welcome back to my real estate podcast with David Liberatore. I'm your host, and today we're diving into something that I think a lot of people are curious about, but maybe don't fully understand: the luxury real estate market here in Sarasota. David, thanks for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me. Yeah, Sarasota's luxury market is really fascinating right now. It's one of those markets that's evolved so much over the past decade. And there's a lot of insider knowledge that can really help both buyers and sellers navigate it
So
effectively.
when you say evolved, what do you mean? Like, what's actually changed in the luxury segment here? Because I feel like people think of Sarasota as this established, kind of traditional market.
Right. And that's partly true. It's definitely established. But what's changed is the caliber of properties, the buyer demographic, and honestly, the competition. You've got new developments like the Boulevard and the View that are really reshaping what luxury means in Sarasota. We're talking about ultra modern condos with amenities that rival Miami or Naples. At the same time, you've got these incredible waterfront estates and beachfront properties on Longboat Key, like Sage, which is the pinnacle of modern beachfront luxury. The market's become a lot more diverse.
Oh, wow. So it's not just old money and traditional estates anymore. You're saying there's this whole new wave of contemporary luxury coming in.
Exactly. And that's huge for the market because it attracts a different buyer. You've got people who maybe made their money in tech or finance and they want that modern aesthetic, those smart home features, the fitness centers, the concierge services. But you also still have the traditional buyer who wants that classic Sarasota charm with a waterfront view. So there's really something for everyone in the luxury segment right now.
That's interesting. So if I'm a seller in the luxury space, what does that mean for me? Like, how do I position my property in a market that's this diverse?
That's the key question. First, you need to know your competition. Literally, you need to understand what comparable properties are selling for, what amenities are moving the needle, and who your buyer actually is. For example, if you're selling a condo in a newer building like the Boulevard, your buyer is probably different from someone buying a historic estate. The marketing, the pricing strategy, even the showing strategy has to be tailored. And honestly, there are some headwinds in the market right now. Things like special assessments on condos that can really impact buyer perception. We've written about that extensively because it's a real issue that sellers need to address head on.
Special assessments. Okay, so that's something that can come up and potentially scare off a buyer. How common is that in Sarasota condos?
It's more common than people think, especially in older buildings or buildings that have deferred maintenance. And it's not just a Sarasota thing, but it's definitely something buyers are more aware of now. The good news is, if you know about it up front and you have a strategy to address it, whether that's negotiating the price, working with the HOA, or being transparent about what's coming, you can actually move forward. But if a buyer discovers it during inspection or due diligence, that's when deals fall apart.
So transparency is key. What about on the buying side? If I'm a buyer looking at luxury properties in Sarasota, what should I actually be looking for beyond just the obvious stuff, like location and square footage?
Great question. Beyond the basics, you want to understand the market dynamics. Are you buying in a buyer's market or a seller's market? What's the inventory like? In Sarasota, you also want to pay attention to things like insurance costs. We've seen some real changes there with citizens' insurance depopulation that's affecting homeowners. You want to know what your actual carrying costs are going to be. And then there's the lifestyle piece. Sarasota has some amazing amenities and points of interest. If you're buying on Longboat Key, you're near some of the best beaches in Florida. If you're downtown, you've got the cultural scene, the restaurants. Understanding what you're really buying into, that lifestyle, is just as important as the property itself.
No kidding. So it's not just about the four walls and the roof. It's about understanding the whole ecosystem around it. And you mentioned insurance. Is that something that's really a factor for luxury buyers?
It absolutely is. Insurance costs can vary dramatically depending on the property type, the location, and the carrier. Citizens insurance depopulation is a real issue that's affecting a lot of homeowners in the area. Luxury buyers are typically more sophisticated, so they're digging into these details. They want to know what their insurance is going to cost, what their taxes are, what the HOA fees are if it's a condo. These aren't deal breakers necessarily, but they're definitely part of the decision-making process.
That makes total sense. So if someone's listening and they're thinking about buying or selling in the Sarasota luxury market, what's your number one piece of advice?
Get informed. Seriously. Work with someone who understands the nuances of the market, not just the general real estate market, but the luxury segment specifically. Know your numbers, know your market, and be strategic about how you position yourself, whether you're buying or selling. And don't be afraid to ask questions. The luxury market in Sarasota is sophisticated, but it's not mysterious. You just have to do the homework.
I love that. David, this has been really helpful. Thanks so much for breaking down the Sarasota luxury market for us. If people want to learn more about specific properties or get more detailed market insights, where should they go?
Thanks for having me. They can reach out directly and we can talk through their specific situation, whether it's a condo like the View or the Boulevard, a beachfront property on Longbow Key, or a traditional estate. We've got the expertise to guide them through the process.
Perfect. Well, that's a wrap for today's episode of my real estate podcast with David Liberatore. Thanks again, David, and thanks to all of you for listening. We'll catch you next time.